She broke the billionaire CEO's rules to protect his legacy. I don't care about your rules, Rowan. I care about saving your company. And I don't care about your methods, Ava. You're breaking every security protocol I've built over the last decade. Then watch your empire burn. Your choice. The tension crackled between them like electricity, neither willing to back down. The fate of a billion-dollar empire hanging in the balance. In the dimly lit server room of Blake Enterprises, Ava Sinclair's fingers flew across the keyboard, her eyes never leaving the screen as lines of code reflected in her steel-gray irises. Warning alerts flashed across multiple monitors, bathing her face in an ominous red glow. She moved with mechanical precision, each keystroke calculated and deliberate. This wasn't just another security breach. This was a massacre in progress. I've got the entry point, she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. But they've already extracted at least 2 terabytes of classified data. Behind her, executives whispered nervously, but they knew better than to interrupt. When the cybersecurity world called in the algorithm, you stayed out of her way. Ava Sinclair hadn't earned her reputation by playing nice. She'd earned it by decoding systems others claimed were impenetrable, by breaking through digital walls that were supposed to be unbreakable. Her personal philosophy was simple and unwavering. I don't take risks, I calculate them. This cold, calculated approach to everything, work, relationships, life, made her both feared and respected in equal measure. She paused, her expression hardening as she spotted something in the code. They're still here, active breach in progress. Her voice remained emotionless, clinical. Just another problem to solve. The boardroom door slammed open. Rowan Blake strode in, his 6'3" frame commanding immediate attention. The billionaire CEO's tailored suit couldn't hide the tension in his shoulders, his jaw clenched tight enough to crack teeth. Everyone out, he ordered, not bothering to look at his executive team. Except you, he added, pointing at Ava. The room cleared instantly. Nobody questioned Rowan Blake when he used that tone. Rowan Blake hadn't transformed his family's struggling tech company into a global powerhouse by being gentle. He'd done it through brutal efficiency and an infamous internal policy known as the Blake Code. 15 rules that every employee knew by heart. And the most sacred of them all was Rule 15, never trust outsiders. Yet here he was, forced to bring in the one person who represented everything he stood against. Tell me exactly what we're dealing with, he demanded, loosening his tie as he approached the monitors. Ava didn't look up. Your security is being systematically dismantled by someone who knows exactly what they're doing. Government contracts, classified research, financial records, they're taking everything. How bad? Terminal, unless I stop it. Their eyes met for the first time, his blazing with barely controlled fury, hers cool and analytical. And can you? He challenged. A hint of a smile touched her lips. That depends on how many of your precious rules you're willing to break. Before we continue, if you've ever been forced to break a rule just to do the right thing, hit that subscribe button now. And if you haven't subscribed yet, ask yourself, why not? Because people who don't subscribe usually regret missing the next twist. Trust me, what happens next will change everything for Rowan and Ava. The Blake Enterprises boardroom had transformed into a war room. Digital displays covered every wall, each showing different aspects of the ongoing breach. Rowan paced behind Ava as she worked, his patience visibly thinning with each passing minute. This shouldn't be possible, he muttered, studying the data flow patterns. Our firewall has 16 layers of encryption. Your firewall, Ava replied without looking up, is a digital museum piece, impressive for its time, but outdated now. His jaw tightened. That museum piece has protected us for 7 years without a single breach. Until today. She finally turned to face him, which means either your security was never as good as you thought, or this attack is coming from someone who knows your systems intimately. The implication hung in the air between them. You're suggesting an inside job? It wasn't a question. I'm stating a probability. The attack patterns show familiarity with your network architecture. Rowan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression darkening. The board is demanding answers. The stock is already dropping on rumors of the breach. Tell them I need 72 hours. 72 hours? He laughed without humor. We'll be bankrupt in 24. Ava stood, facing him directly. At 5'7", she had to look up to meet his eyes, but there was nothing submissive in her stance. Then you have a choice. Let me work without interference or find someone else who can fix this faster. They both knew there was no one else. What do you need? He finally asked. Full system access. No restrictions, no oversight, no questions. That violates at least 5 points of the Blake Code. Your code is what got you into this mess. Your rigidity created blind spots. She stepped closer. Sometimes, Rowan, the only way to protect the rules is to break them. For 3 seconds, she counted them. He said nothing. Then, do what you need to do. But I stay in the room. Fine, just don't touch anything. For the next 72 hours, neither of them left the secure server room. Food was brought in. Sleep happened in short bursts on the leather couch in the corner. Rowan watched as Ava dismantled his security protocols, rebuilt firewalls, and traced the digital footprints of their attacker. On hour 70, she found something. Rowan. Her voice cut through his half-sleep. Look at this. He was beside her in an instant, blinking away exhaustion. What am I looking at? This isn't just a data breach. They were searching for something specific. She pointed to a pattern on the screen. See these access attempts? They're focused on a single encrypted directory. Which one? Something called Project Legacy. The color drained from Rowan's face. That's impossible. Those files are air-gapped. They're not even connected to our main network. Well, someone found a bridge. She studied his reaction. What's Project Legacy? Classified. Not anymore. She turned back to the screen. I've isolated the breach point, and I know who's behind it. She pulled up a personnel file. The photo showed a distinguished man in his 50s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed. Jordan Lane, she said, your Chief Innovation Officer. Rowan stared at the image, his expression unreadable. Jordan isn't just my CIO, he was my best friend for 20 years. Well, your best friend accessed files containing something called Project Legacy approximately 16 hours ago, and he's copied them to an external location. Rowan's hand came down hard on the desk. Damn it, Jordan. He turned away, running a hand through his disheveled hair. When he spoke again, his voice had changed, revealing something Ava hadn't heard before. Pain. Project Legacy isn't a corporate initiative, it's personal. He took a deep breath. It's my search for the child I never met. Ava's fingers stopped moving over the keyboard. For once, she had no immediate response. 25 years ago, he continued, I was in a relationship with a woman named Nora Ellis. We were young, ambitious. When she told me she was pregnant, I panicked. Told her I wasn't ready. She disappeared the next day. His voice grew quieter. By the time I realized what I'd lost, I couldn't find her. And Project Legacy is your attempt to find your child, he nodded. Jordan is the only person who knew. He helped me start the search 15 years ago. And now he's taken the files. Ava turned back to her screen, her mind already calculating possibilities. The question is why? I need to know what he's doing with that information. I can track him, but I'll need to go deeper into your systems than you've allowed so far. Their eyes met again, but this time the dynamic had shifted. This wasn't just about saving a company anymore. Do whatever it takes, Rowan said. Pause for a second. Should Ava involve herself in Rowan's personal past? Comment below with what you would do in her position. And if you're watching without subscribing, you're literally missing out on the protection this channel gives you from boring videos. Don't be that person who regrets not subscribing when the next chapter drops. Ava worked through the night, following Jordan Lane's digital trail. By morning, she had a comprehensive picture of his activities over the past month. He's been methodical, she explained, displaying a timeline on the main screen. Small information extractions, testing the boundaries of his access privileges. But 2 weeks ago, something changed. He started focusing exclusively on Project Legacy. Rowan studied the data points. What triggered the change? This. She pulled up an email. He received a message from a private medical research facility in Boston, Genetech Solutions. I've never heard of them. They specialize in genetic testing and DNA analysis. She turned to face him. Rowan, I think Jordan found your child. The words hung in the air between them. Rowan gripped the edge of the desk, his knuckles white. Where is he now? His company phone and laptop are currently in Boston. He flew there yesterday morning. We need to go to Boston. We? Ava raised an eyebrow. My job was to stop the breach. I've done that. The breach isn't contained until we know what Jordan is doing with that information. Rowan's eyes locked with hers. I'll double your fee. This isn't about money. Then what is it about? She hesitated, something unusual for her. Getting involved in personal matters complicates things. I work with systems, not people. People are just systems with emotions, he countered. And right now, I need someone who can think objectively. Someone who won't be clouded by the history I have with Jordan. You're asking me to break more of your rules? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. I thought you enjoyed breaking rules. I enjoy breaking systems. Rules are just obstacles. She closed her laptop. My jet or yours? Mine's faster. 4 hours later, they were 30,000 feet above the American heartland. Heading for Boston. Rowan's private jet offered luxury that Ava barely noticed, her attention fixed on her laptop as she continued to track Jordan's movements. He's visited Genetech Solutions twice, she reported, and he's been to an address in Cambridge 3 times, an apartment building near MIT. Rowan looked up from the documents he'd been reviewing. Who lives there? I'm working on it. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Property records show the unit is rented to a Dr. Clara Wynn, 32 years old, geneticist at MIT's Department of Biological Engineering. She turned her laptop to show him a professional photo of a woman with dark hair and intelligent eyes that seemed hauntingly familiar. Rowan stared at the image, his breath catching. She looks like Nora. According to public records, Clara was raised by a single mother who died of cancer 6 years ago. Ava watched his reaction carefully. The timing fits, Rowan. He closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, there was a vulnerability there that transformed his face. All these years searching, and Jordan found her first. Why wouldn't he tell me? That's what we need to find out. The plane began its descent into Boston. As the city lights came into view, Ava noticed Rowan's hands trembling slightly as he gathered his papers. What will you say to her? She asked. I have no idea. He looked out the window. How do you apologize for being absent from someone's entire life? Maybe start by listening rather than apologizing. He looked at her with surprise. That's unexpectedly emotional advice from the algorithm. It's logical, not emotional. People who feel heard are more receptive to new information. But there was something in her tone that didn't quite match her clinical words. For all her calculated detachment, Ava Sinclair wasn't as emotionless as her reputation suggested. They checked into adjacent suites at the Four Seasons. While Rowan showered and changed, Ava set up a temporary command center in her room, establishing secure connections to continue monitoring Jordan's movements. When Rowan knocked on the connecting door an hour later, he looked transformed. Freshly shaved, wearing casual but expensive clothes that made him appear more approachable than the intimidating CEO she'd first met. Any updates? He asked. Jordan's phone is at his hotel. He hasn't moved in 3 hours. And Clara? Her faculty page says she teaches until 4 p.m. today. It's currently 2:30. Rowan nodded, pacing the room. We should go to the university. Wait for her class to end. And say what? Excuse me, Professor, I might be your long-lost father? Ava closed her laptop. We need more information before making contact. What do you suggest? We visit Genetech Solutions first. Find out what connection they have to Jordan and Clara. The research facility occupied the top 3 floors of a sleek building in Boston's Innovation District. The reception area was minimalist and modern, with a single attendant behind a glass desk. We have an appointment with Dr. Avery Cole, Ava said confidently, naming the facility's research director she'd identified during her background research. The receptionist checked the computer. I don't see anything scheduled. That's strange. Ava frowned, looking genuinely confused. Rowan Blake of Blake Enterprises, regarding the partnership proposal? The name recognition was immediate. The receptionist's eyes widened slightly. Mr. Blake, I'm so sorry for the confusion. Let me call Dr. Cole's office. While they waited, Rowan leaned close to Ava. Partnership proposal? People hear what they expect to hear, she murmured. A billionaire CEO showing up unannounced? Must be a business opportunity. Dr. Avery Cole appeared 5 minutes later, a tall, thin man with nervous energy and a forced smile. Mr. Blake, what an unexpected pleasure. I wasn't aware we had discussions planned. The best opportunities often come unannounced, Rowan replied smoothly, shaking his hand. This is my security consultant, Ms. Sinclair. Pleased to meet you both. Please, follow me to my office where we can speak privately. Once seated in Cole's minimalist office with its view of Boston Harbor, Rowan got straight to the point. Dr. Cole, I'm interested in your recent work with Jordan Lane. Cole's smile faltered. I'm not familiar with that name. My Chief Innovation Officer, Rowan continued, watching him carefully. He's visited your facility twice in the past week. We have many visitors. I don't personally meet with everyone. Ava stepped in. Dr. Cole, let's not waste time. We know Jordan Lane contracted your facility for genetic analysis services related to a Dr. Clara Wynn. What we don't know is why. Cole's expression shifted from confusion to calculation. I'm afraid client confidentiality prevents me from discussing any specific cases. Even when the case involves corporate espionage? Rowan's voice hardened. Jordan Lane stole proprietary information from my company to pursue this. That makes it my business. Cole glanced nervously between them. I should consult our legal department before continuing this conversation. By all means, Ava said, pulling out her phone. While you do that, I'll contact the FBI's cyber division about the unauthorized access to Blake Enterprises' classified government contract data. I'm sure they'll be very interested in Genetech's involvement. It was a bluff, but a calculated one. Cole's face paled. That won't be necessary. He lowered his voice. Mr. Lane came to us with a DNA sample. He wanted it compared against another sample already in our database. Clara Wynn's sample, Rowan said. Cole nodded reluctantly. Dr. Wynn participated in a genetic research study we conducted last year. Mr. Lane wanted to know if there was a familial match. And was there? Rowan's voice was barely audible. Cole hesitated, then nodded. A first-degree relation, parent-child. The confirmation hit Rowan like a physical blow. He leaned back in his chair, eyes closed momentarily. But that's impossible, Rowan said, his voice strained. I never submitted a DNA sample. Cole looked confused. The sample Mr. Lane provided was labeled as yours. He said you had authorized the comparison. Ava and Rowan exchanged glances. Did Jordan explain why he wanted this information? She asked. He said it was part of a private matter for Mr. Blake. Given his position at your company, we had no reason to doubt him. Cole shifted uncomfortably. He seemed particularly interested in Dr. Wynn's medical history. What specifically? Rowan demanded. I don't have those details, but he did request copies of her genetic markers for several hereditary conditions. Ava's mind was already calculating possibilities, none of them good. Dr. Cole, did Jordan mention Project Legacy? Cole's expression confirmed it before he spoke. He said it was the culmination of a long-term initiative, that Mr. Blake would be pleased with the results. Thank you for your time, Dr. Cole, Rowan said, standing abruptly. I trust this conversation will remain confidential. Outside the building, Rowan paced along the sidewalk, struggling to process what they'd learned. Why would Jordan do this? Why find my daughter and not tell me? The more important question is how he got your DNA, Ava pointed out, and what he plans to do with the genetic information. Rowan stopped pacing. We need to talk to Clara before Jordan does any more damage. Her class ends in 20 minutes. We can make it to MIT if we leave now. The ride to Cambridge was tense and silent. Rowan stared out the window, his thoughts clearly elsewhere. Ava used the time to dig deeper into Jordan Lane's recent activities. He's made several calls to a law firm specializing in intellectual property, she reported, and he's accessed Blake Enterprises' patent database multiple times. Patents? Rowan frowned. What do patents have to do with finding my daughter? I don't know yet. But there's a pattern here we're missing. MIT's biological engineering building was a modern structure of glass and steel. They arrived just as students began streaming out of lecture halls. Ava checked her phone. Room 305, this way. They found the lecture hall just as the last students were leaving. At the front of the room, a woman was gathering papers from a podium. Even from a distance, the resemblance was unmistakable. Clara had Nora's profile, her graceful movements. Rowan froze in the doorway, suddenly uncertain. Do you want me to go first? Ava asked quietly. He shook his head. No. This is my responsibility. They approached slowly. Clara looked up as they neared, her expression curious but not unwelcoming. Dr. Wynne, Rowan's voice was steadier than Ava had expected. Yes? Clara studied them both, professional but cautious. Can I help you? My name is Rowan Blake. This is my colleague, Ava Sinclair. He paused, searching for words. I believe you've been contacted by my Chief Innovation Officer, Jordan Lane. Clara's expression shifted subtly. Mr. Lane, yes. He's been quite persistent about discussing some research opportunity. She tilted her head slightly. Though he never mentioned you would be coming personally. He doesn't know we're here, Ava clarified. I see. Clara gathered her papers more deliberately now, her guard visibly rising. And what exactly is this research opportunity? Mr. Lane was rather vague about the details. Rowan took a deep breath. It's not a research opportunity, Dr. Wynne. It's something much more personal. He hesitated, then continued. Did your mother ever speak about your father? The question clearly caught her off guard. Excuse me? Your mother, Nora Ellis. Clara's papers slipped from her hands, scattering across the floor. How do you know my mother's name? Ava knelt to help gather the fallen papers, giving Rowan space for what came next. Because 25 years ago, Nora and I were together, he said quietly. And I believe, based on what we've just learned, that I'm your father. Clara stared at him, her expression cycling through shock, disbelief, and something harder to define. That's impossible. My mother told me my father died before I was born. The words hit Rowan like a physical blow. She told you I was dead? She said there had been an accident. Clara's voice had turned cold. Are you saying my mother lied to me my entire life? I'm saying she protected you from a truth she thought would hurt you. Rowan stepped closer. Nora left because I failed her when she told me she was pregnant. By the time I realized my mistake, she was gone. Clara took a step back. And you expect me to believe you've been searching for me all this time? For 25 years? Not all that time, he admitted. I was young and selfish. It took me years to understand what I'd lost. The search, Project Legacy, began 15 years ago. Project Legacy? Clara's eyes narrowed. That's what Mr. Lane mentioned. He said it was some kind of corporate initiative. It was never corporate. It was always personal. Clara gathered the last of her papers, her movements stiff. Mr. Blake, I don't know what you want from me, but this is a lot to process. I need time. Of course, Rowan said quickly, but there's something else you should know. Jordan Lane has been accessing your genetic information without authorization. We don't know why yet, but his intentions may not be what they seem. My genetic information? Clara looked alarmed. How would he even have access to that? Through GeneTech Solutions, Ava explained. The research study you participated in last year. Clara's expression darkened. That study was supposed to be anonymous. My genetic data was protected under strict confidentiality agreements. Jordan found a way around those agreements, Rowan said. And we need to figure out why before he does whatever he's planning. Clara studied them both, clearly weighing her options. Finally, she nodded. My office is more private. We can talk there. This story is getting intense, isn't it? If you're feeling the tension between these characters, hit that like button right now. And honestly, if you haven't subscribed yet, why? What are you waiting for? Don't be the person who misses the next chapter because you couldn't take 2 seconds to click subscribe. Your future self will thank you. Clara's office was small but meticulously organized, with scientific journals neatly shelved and research papers stacked in precise piles. She closed the door behind them and leaned against her desk. "Start from the beginning," she said, "and don't leave anything out." For the next hour, Rowan explained everything: his relationship with Nora, their breakup, his eventual search for them both, and finally, Jordan's betrayal. Ava filled in the technical details of the security breach and what they'd discovered at GeneTech. When they finished, Clara sat in silence for several moments. "My mother never spoke about you," she finally said. "Whenever I asked about my father, she would get this distant look and say he was a brilliant man who would have loved me very much." Her voice softened slightly. She kept a photo hidden in her jewelry box. "I found it after she died. A young couple at some kind of tech conference. I always wondered if it was you." "The MIT Innovation Summit," Rowan said immediately. 1999. Nora was presenting her research on genetic algorithms. "I was there representing my father's company." Clara's eyes widened slightly. "You remember the exact event?" "I remember everything about Nora." He hesitated, then reached for his wallet, removing a worn photograph. "I've carried this for 20 years. He handed it to Clara. The same photo, Nora smiling brilliantly at the camera, her arm linked with a much younger Rowan. Clara stared at the image, her composure finally cracking. "She never stopped loving you," she whispered. "Even when she was dying, she would sometimes say things in her sleep. Your name was among them." Rowan turned away, his shoulders tight with emotion. Ava, sensing the need to give them space, moved to the window, but her mind was still working, connecting pieces of the puzzle. "Dr. Wynne, Clara, what exactly is your research focus?" Clara looked up, grateful for the shift in conversation. "I specialize in genetic engineering, specifically CRISPR applications for treating hereditary diseases." "And have you published your research?" "Some of it. My most recent work is still in the patent application phase." Ava and Rowan exchanged glances. "What kind of patents?" he asked. "A new delivery mechanism for CRISPR-Cas9 that targets specific genetic markers with unprecedented precision." Clara frowned. "Why?" "Jordan has been accessing Blake Enterprises' patent database," Ava explained, "and consulting with intellectual property attorneys." Clara set down the photograph. "Mr. Lane asked a lot of questions about my research when we met. He seemed particularly interested in my delivery mechanism." "Blake Enterprises has a biotech division," Rowan said slowly. "We've been developing security applications for genetic identification systems." "Biometric security based on DNA," Ava translated. "The ultimate personalized access key." Clara's eyes widened with understanding. "And my delivery mechanism could potentially be modified to recognize specific genetic markers, like familial DNA patterns. Creating a backdoor that only someone with Blake DNA could access," Rowan concluded. "Jordan isn't just trying to find my daughter. He's trying to use her genetic connection to me to gain control of my company's systems." "But why?" Clara asked. "What does he gain?" "Blake Enterprises holds government contracts worth billions," Ava explained, "including classified defense projects. Access to those systems would be invaluable to certain buyers." Rowan's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression darkening. "Jordan's requesting an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. The subject is leadership transition planning. He's making his move," Ava said. "We need to act fast." Clara stood, her decision made. "What do you need from me?" "Your expertise," Rowan replied, "and your trust, at least temporarily." "I'm not sure I can give you the second part yet," Clara said honestly. "But my expertise is yours if it stops someone from weaponizing my research." Ava was already formulating a plan. "We need to give Jordan exactly what he wants, but not in the way he expects." "What do you mean?" Clara asked. "He wants your DNA to create his backdoor. So we give him DNA, just not the version he's expecting. Clara caught on immediately. A modified sample with markers that would trigger a security alert rather than grant access. Exactly, Ava nodded. But first, we need to confirm exactly what he's planning. I need access to his devices. How do we get that? Rowan asked. We don't. Ava turned to Clara. You do. You arranged to meet with him. Express interest in his proposal. While you're meeting, I'll remotely access his devices. Won't he be suspicious if I suddenly seem interested after avoiding his calls? Tell him you've reconsidered the research opportunity, that you've hit a funding wall for your current project and are exploring options. Clara considered this. It could work. He's been persistent enough that a change of heart wouldn't seem completely out of character. Make the call, Rowan said. Set it up for tonight. As Clara reached for her phone, Rowan pulled Ava aside. Are you sure about this? We're putting her at risk. She'll be in a public place. Jordan has no reason to suspect we've made contact. Ava studied his concerned expression. This isn't just about your company anymore, is it? No, he admitted quietly. I just found her. I can't lose her now. You won't, Ava promised, surprising herself with how much she meant it. Clara arranged to meet Jordan at a restaurant near his hotel at 8 p.m. The plan was simple. She would keep him engaged while Ava hacked his devices remotely. Rowan would monitor from a separate table, close enough to intervene if necessary. They used the remaining hours to prepare. Clara worked in her lab, creating a modified DNA sample with specific markers that would trigger security protocols rather than bypass them. Ava set up the remote access tools she would need, while Rowan made calls to trusted board members, warning them about the upcoming emergency meeting without revealing all the details. By 7:30 p.m., they were in position. The restaurant Jordan had chosen was upscale but busy enough to provide anonymity. Clara arrived first, taking a table near the center of the room. Rowan and Ava entered separately, sitting at a corner table with a clear view of Clara's position. Remember, Ava said quietly as she set up her laptop, we just need 20 minutes of access. Keep your communications device on so we can hear everything. Rowan nodded, his eyes fixed on Clara. She looks so much like her mother. Ava glanced up, noting the mixture of pride and regret in his expression. For someone who had built his reputation on emotional detachment and rigid rules, Rowan Blake was showing surprising depth. At precisely 8 p.m., Jordan Lane entered the restaurant. Even from a distance, Ava could see why he had been Rowan's trusted friend for so long. He moved with confidence and charm, greeting Clara with a warm smile and apologizing for his persistence. He's good, Ava murmured, listening through the small earpiece connected to the microphone Clara was wearing. If I didn't know better, I'd believe he was genuinely interested in her research. Rowan's jaw tightened. 20 years of friendship makes for a convincing performance. As Jordan and Clara ordered drinks and began discussing her work, Ava's fingers flew across her keyboard. I've got a signal from his phone. Starting the infiltration now. For the next 15 minutes, she worked silently, breaking through Jordan's security layers one by one. Rowan divided his attention between watching Clara and monitoring Ava's progress. I'm in, she finally whispered. Downloading his files now. Through their earpieces, they could hear Jordan smoothly transitioning the conversation from Clara's research to potential applications at Blake Enterprises. Rowan has always been interested in genetic security applications, Jordan was saying, but he lacks the specialized knowledge to fully develop the technology. Your delivery mechanism could be the missing piece. It's interesting you mention that, Clara replied, following their script perfectly. I've been hitting funding walls with my current institution. A private sector partnership could accelerate my research significantly. Blake Enterprises would be more than a partner, Jordan leaned forward. We could make you the head of an entirely new division, with resources beyond anything academia could provide. That sounds almost too good to be true, Clara said, a hint of calculated suspicion in her voice. Why me specifically? There are other researchers in this field with more established reputations. Jordan's response was smooth. Your approach is innovative, unconventional. Rowan appreciates that kind of thinking. Speaking of Mr. Blake, Clara continued, shouldn't he be part of these discussions? Rowan trusts me to identify promising opportunities. Once we have a preliminary agreement, he'll certainly be involved. At their table, Ava's screen filled with documents. I've got everything. His emails, calendar, notes. She stopped suddenly, her expression hardening. Rowan, look at this. She turned the laptop so he could see an email chain between Jordan and someone identified only as Skylar. He's already arranged to sell access, Rowan read, his voice tight with anger, to our defense contracts for $50 million. The transfer is scheduled for tomorrow afternoon, Ava noted. After his board meeting. He's planning to oust me in the morning and sell our classified technology by the afternoon. Rowan's hand clenched into a fist. I need to end this now. Wait, Ava grabbed his arm. We need concrete proof we can take to the authorities. Let Clara finish this. Through their earpieces, they heard Jordan making his move. There is one thing I'd need from you before we proceed, he was saying. A DNA sample for our records. Standard procedure for all high-level personnel. A DNA sample? Clara sounded appropriately surprised. That seems unusual for a preliminary discussion. Blake Enterprises takes security very seriously, particularly for positions with access to classified research. Clara hesitated just long enough to seem natural. I suppose that makes sense. What kind of sample? A simple cheek swab would suffice. In fact, Jordan reached into his jacket pocket. I took the liberty of bringing a collection kit. We could take care of it right now. That's very prepared of you, Clara said, accepting the sealed package. Do you always carry DNA collection kits to dinner meetings? Jordan laughed. Only the important ones. Clara opened the package and followed the instructions, swabbing the inside of her cheek. What Jordan didn't know was that earlier in her lab, she had applied a specially formulated coating to her mouth that would transfer her modified DNA sample rather than her actual genetic material. There, she said, sealing the sample and handing it back. I hope this means we're moving forward. Absolutely, Jordan smiled, tucking the sample into his jacket. I'll have our legal team draw up preliminary paperwork. We could potentially have you on board within the week. That's faster than I expected. When Rowan sees the potential in your work, he'll want to move quickly. Jordan signaled for the check. I have a feeling this partnership will change everything for Blake Enterprises. I certainly hope so, Clara replied, with more truth than Jordan could possibly understand. At their table, Ava was downloading the last of Jordan's files. I've got everything we need. Complete documentation of his plan to use Clara's DNA to create a backdoor into our systems, plus the arrangement to sell access to our defense contracts. Enough to stop him? Rowan asked. Enough to put him in prison, Ava confirmed. The meeting's wrapping up. We should go. They slipped out before Jordan could spot them, meeting Clara at a predetermined location 2 blocks away. Did you get what you needed? Clara asked as she joined them. Everything, Ava confirmed. He's planning to sell access to classified defense systems using a backdoor created with your DNA. Which won't work because you gave him the modified sample, Rowan added. But we're not going to let it get that far. Clara nodded, but her expression remained troubled. He seemed so sincere about the research opportunity. If I hadn't known what he was really planning... Jordan has always been convincing, Rowan said grimly. It's why I trusted him for 20 years. They returned to Rowan's hotel suite to review the evidence Ava had gathered. The files painted a damning picture. Jordan had been planning this betrayal for months, carefully positioning himself to take control of the company while simultaneously arranging to sell its most valuable secrets. The board meeting is scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow, Rowan noted. He's going to present evidence that I'm mentally unstable and push for an emergency leadership change. What evidence could he possibly have? Clara asked. Project Legacy, Ava explained. He's going to frame Rowan's search for you as an obsession that's compromising his judgment and the company's security. That's why he needed to find me first, Clara realized, to control the narrative. Exactly, Rowan confirmed. If he could approach you first, gain your trust, he could potentially even convince you to support his claims. So what's our next move? Clara asked. Ava outlined their strategy. First, we contact DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. They oversee the classified contracts Jordan is planning to sell. With the evidence we have, they'll take immediate action. Then we prepare for the board meeting, Rowan continued. Jordan doesn't know we've discovered his plan. He'll walk in expecting to take control of the company. And instead, he'll be met by federal agents, Ava finished. Clara nodded slowly. And what about us? She asked, looking at Rowan. After this is over? The question hung in the air between them, loaded with 25 years of absence and newly discovered connection. That's entirely up to you, Rowan said quietly. I've missed your entire life. I have no right to expect anything, but I would like the chance to know you if you're willing. Clara didn't answer immediately, her expression thoughtful. My mother once told me that the hardest decisions reveal who we truly are. I think the next 24 hours will show me a lot about who you are, Rowan Blake. Fair enough, he acknowledged. Ava, feeling suddenly like an intruder on a private moment, focused on her laptop. I've drafted the communication to DARPA. Once we send this, there's no turning back. Rowan moved to stand beside her, reading the document over her shoulder. Send it. With a single keystroke, Ava set the next phase of their plan in motion. The response from DARPA came within the hour. They would have agents in place by morning, ready to intercept Jordan before he could complete his sale. In the meantime, they advised Rowan to proceed as if unaware of the plot, to avoid tipping Jordan off. As midnight approached, Clara prepared to leave. I should get home. Tomorrow will be intense. I'll have a car take you, Rowan offered, and security stationed outside your apartment just in case. Is that really necessary? Jordan has 50 million reasons to make sure his plan succeeds, Ava pointed out. We can't take chances. Clara nodded reluctantly. All right, I'll see you both in the morning. After she left, Rowan poured himself a drink and stood by the window, looking out at the Boston skyline. 25 years, he said quietly. I've missed everything. Her first steps, first day of school, graduation, her decision to become a scientist. You can't change the past, Ava said, closing her laptop. But you're here now, when it matters most. He turned to look at her. That's surprisingly optimistic coming from you. I'm not optimistic. I'm practical. Dwelling on what you can't change is inefficient. A small smile touched his lips. Is that your version of don't cry over spilled milk? Something like that. She gathered her things, preparing to return to her own suite. We should both get some rest. Tomorrow won't be easy. Ava, he called as she reached the door. Thank you. Not just for stopping the breach, but for everything else. She paused, unused to gratitude. I'm just doing my job. We both know you've gone far beyond your job description. Their eyes met, and for a moment, something unspoken passed between them. An acknowledgement that somewhere along the way, this had become more than a professional arrangement for both of them. Good night, Rowan, she said finally, and slipped out the door. What would you do if someone tried to use your own family against you? Tell me in the comments right now. And if you're still watching without subscribing, imagine losing track of this story right before the climax. Don't do that to yourself. Hit subscribe before you regret it. Morning arrived with a sense of impending confrontation. Ava met Rowan in the hotel lobby at 7 a.m., both of them dressed for battle. He in his most imposing suit, she in the sleek, professional attire that had become her armor in the corporate world. DARPA confirmed their agents are in position, she reported quietly as they walked to his waiting car. They've been monitoring Jordan's communications since our alert. And Clara? Already at the office. She texted that Jordan approached her this morning, asking her to attend the board meeting as a special guest. Rowan's jaw tightened. He's planning to use her as his trump card. A plan that's about to backfire spectacularly. The Boston offices of Blake Enterprises occupied the top 10 floors of a downtown skyscraper. As they rode the elevator to the executive level, Ava noticed Rowan's hand tightening on the handle of his briefcase. Nervous? She asked. Not about Jordan, he replied. About Clara. Today will be difficult for her. The elevator doors opened to reveal the executive floor buzzing with unusual activity. Board members were already arriving, gathering in small groups and speaking in hushed tones. Jordan had clearly been busy, laying the groundwork for his coup. Rowan's assistant approached immediately, looking anxious. Mr. Blake, the board is assembling in the main conference room. Mr. Lane has requested that you join them as soon as you arrive. Thank you, Riley. Please tell them I'll be there momentarily. Once the assistant was out of earshot, Rowan turned to Ava. Are we ready? She nodded. DARPA agents are positioned in the security office downstairs. They'll move on my signal. They made their way to Rowan's office first, where Clara was waiting. She looked pale but determined, dressed professionally in a tailored blazer and skirt. Jordan came to my hotel this morning, she said without preamble. He wants me to tell the board that you approached me inappropriately, claiming to be my father as part of some delusional obsession. Rowan's expression darkened. And what did you tell him? That I would consider it. She met his eyes directly. I needed to buy time. You did the right thing, Ava assured her. Is he expecting you at the meeting? Clara nodded. He wants me to be his surprise witness. Then that's exactly what you'll be, Rowan said, just not in the way he expects. The Blake Enterprises boardroom was designed to impress, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of Boston and a massive table of polished mahogany. When Rowan entered, followed by Ava and Clara, all conversation ceased. Jordan Lane stood at the head of the table, a position traditionally reserved for Rowan. He looked momentarily startled by Clara's presence alongside Rowan, but quickly recovered, offering a practiced smile. Rowan, thank you for joining us. His voice carried just the right note of concerned professionalism. And Dr. Wynn, I'm glad you decided to come. Jordan. Rowan's greeting was cold as he took his seat. I understand you've called this emergency meeting. The floor is yours. Jordan launched into his carefully prepared presentation, outlining concerns about Rowan's leadership and decision-making. He spoke of erratic behavior, obsessive personal projects draining company resources, and security protocols being bypassed. For 20 years, I've stood by Rowan's side, Jordan told the board, his expression a perfect mask of reluctant duty. Which makes what I'm about to share all the more difficult. He clicked to the next slide, revealing details of Project Legacy, carefully edited to appear as an unstable fixation rather than a legitimate search. Rowan has been using company resources to pursue a personal obsession, Jordan continued. Searching for a child he believes he fathered decades ago, despite no credible evidence this person exists. Murmurs spread around the table. Rowan remained impassive, allowing Jordan to continue digging his own grave. This obsession has led to increasingly concerning behavior, Jordan went on, including approaching innocent people and claiming to be their long-lost father. He turned to Clara. Dr. Wynn, would you please share your experience with the board? All eyes turned to Clara. She stood slowly, her expression unreadable. My name is Dr. Clara Wynn, she began. I'm a geneticist at MIT, specializing in CRISPR applications for treating hereditary diseases. Jordan nodded encouragingly, clearly expecting her to continue with the narrative he had crafted. Instead, she turned to face him directly. And yesterday, I discovered that Jordan Lane has been attempting to weaponize my research to create a backdoor into Blake Enterprises' classified defense systems, which he plans to sell to foreign interests for $50 million. The boardroom erupted in shocked exclamations. Jordan's face drained of color. That's absurd, he sputtered. Rowan has clearly manipulated her. I have the evidence right here, Ava interrupted, connecting her laptop to the room's display system. Complete documentation of Mr. Lane's communications with buyers, his unauthorized access to classified systems, and his plan to use Dr. Wynn's genetic connection to Mr. Blake to create a security bypass. The screens filled with damning evidence, emails, financial transfers, technical specifications. Jordan looked frantically around the room, his carefully constructed plan collapsing around him. This is a setup, he insisted. Rowan is framing me because I discovered his obsession with finding his imaginary child. I'm not imaginary, Mr. Lane, Clara said quietly. And Rowan Blake is indeed my biological father. We confirmed it yesterday, properly and ethically, unlike your clandestine genetic testing. Jordan's eyes darted between them, calculating his remaining options. This proves nothing. You have no actual evidence of any sale. The boardroom doors opened, and two serious-looking individuals in dark suits entered. Jordan Lane, the first agent announced, "I'm Agent Casey Drew with the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. You're being detained on suspicion of attempting to sell classified defense information to unauthorized parties." As the agents approached, Jordan made a desperate lunge for the door, only to be quickly restrained. "Rowan, you can't do this," he shouted as they led him away. 20 years of friendship, and this is how you repay me?" Rowan finally stood, his voice steady. "Friendship is based on trust, Jordan. Something you forgot a long time ago." After Jordan was escorted out, Rowan addressed the stunned board members. "I apologize for the dramatic turn of events. I only learned of Jordan's betrayal 3 days ago, when Ms. Sinclair uncovered the security breach." He proceeded to explain everything: the data breach, Jordan's plan, and yes, his long search for his daughter. By the time he finished, the initial shock had transformed into expressions of support and concern. "We'll need to conduct a full security audit," one board member noted, "and review all of Jordan's projects." "Already underway," Ava confirmed. "I've implemented enhanced protocols that should prevent similar breaches in the future." As the meeting concluded, board members approached Rowan individually, expressing their continued confidence in his leadership. Through it all, Clara remained by his side, observing the man who was her father with new eyes. When they finally left the boardroom, Rowan, Ava, and Clara retreated to his office. For a moment, none of them spoke, the weight of the morning's events settling around them. "It's over," Ava finally said. "DARPA will handle Jordan from here. The company is secure." Rowan nodded, but his attention was on Clara. "Are you all right?" "I'm not sure," she admitted. "Yesterday morning, my life was normal. Today, I've gained a father, helped prevent a major security breach, and watched a man's career and freedom collapse in real time." She gave a small, incredulous laugh. "It's a lot to process." "Take all the time you need," Rowan said gently. "I've waited 25 years. I can wait longer." Clara studied him thoughtfully. "My mother always said I got my patience from my father. I guess she was right about that, at least." It was a small opening, but Rowan recognized it for what it was, the possibility of a beginning. If this story taught you something, that sometimes breaking rules is the only way to protect what matters, share this video right now. And if you watched all the way to this point without subscribing, explain in the comments why you'd choose to stay out of the family we're building here. The second part of this incredible story is coming soon, and you won't want to miss it. 3 months later, Rowan stood at the window of his Cambridge office, watching the autumn leaves swirl across the MIT campus. Behind him, Ava was reviewing security protocols on her laptop, her presence in his life now a comfortable constant. The door opened, and Clara entered, carrying a stack of research papers. "Sorry I'm late. My lecture ran over." "No problem," Rowan smiled, the expression coming more naturally to him these days. "How are your students doing with the new material?" "Struggling, but in a good way." She set down the papers and took a seat. The joint research program is pushing them to think beyond traditional boundaries. The Blake MIT Genetic Security Initiative had been established 6 weeks earlier, with Clara as its director. It represented everything Jordan had promised her, but with legitimate intentions, advancing her research while developing ethical applications for genetic security. "The DARPA representatives were impressed with your presentation last week," Ava noted, closing her laptop. "Especially your safeguards against unauthorized genetic access." "Ironic that Jordan's plot led to creating better protections against exactly what he was planning," Clara observed. Rowan returned to his desk, where a framed photograph now stood prominently, Clara's graduation from MIT, with Nora standing proudly beside her. Clara had given it to him a month ago, a gesture of growing trust. "I've been thinking about the Blake Code," he said, changing the subject. "Specifically, Rule 15. Never trust outsiders," Ava quoted. She knew all 15 rules by heart now, having spent months helping Rowan re-examine the rigid structure that had both built and limited his company. "I'm rewriting it," Rowan announced. "The new Rule 15 states, Legacy exists in both systems and relationships. Clara smiled. Mom would have approved of that. I think so too, Rowan agreed softly. As they discussed the upcoming week's projects, Rowan found himself marveling at how much had changed. As they discussed the upcoming week's projects, Rowan found himself marveling at how much had changed in just 3 months. The rigid, rule-bound CEO who trusted no one had been transformed, not just by the betrayal of his oldest friend, but by the discovery of his daughter and the unexpected presence of a woman who had initially been just another security consultant. The Pentagon meeting is scheduled for Thursday, Ava reminded him, checking her calendar. They want an update on the biometric safeguards. I can present the latest test results, Clara offered. We've made significant progress on preventing genetic spoofing. Rowan nodded, watching the easy interaction between the two women who had become the center of his world. Clara was still cautious with him. 25 years couldn't be erased in 3 months, but each day brought small steps forward. Lunches where she shared stories of her childhood, questions about her grandmother, Rowan's mother, whom she'd never had the chance to meet, discussions about research that revealed how much she had inherited his analytical mind. And then there was Ava. After the crisis had passed, he'd expected her to move on to her next high-profile client. Instead, she had accepted his offer to become Blake Enterprises' chief security officer, overseeing the complete restructuring of their digital and physical security protocols. Her office was down the hall from his, and he found himself seeking her counsel on matters far beyond security. The board also wants to discuss the European expansion, Rowan added. The London office is ready to open next month. I should be there for the security implementation, Ava noted. Their systems will need to integrate seamlessly with ours. Actually, Rowan said, I was hoping both of you might join me for the opening. We could make it a working vacation of sorts. A week in London, perhaps followed by Paris? Clara looked surprised. You want me to come too? The genetic security systems aren't scheduled for international deployment yet. This isn't just about work, Rowan admitted. I thought it might be a good opportunity for us to spend some time together outside the office, if you're comfortable with that. Clara and Ava exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. Over the past months, they had developed their own relationship, mentor and protege in some ways, but also friends who shared the unique experience of dealing with Rowan Blake. I think that sounds nice, Clara finally said. I haven't been to Europe since a conference 2 years ago. I'll make the arrangements, Ava said, making a note on her tablet. The London office has excellent security already, but I'll want to review their protocols before we arrive. As they continued planning, Rowan's phone buzzed with a news alert. He glanced at it, his expression darkening momentarily. What is it? Ava asked, noticing the change. Jordan's sentencing was today, he said quietly. 15 years for attempted espionage and corporate sabotage. A somber mood settled over the room. Despite everything, Jordan's betrayal still carried the sting of personal loss for Rowan. 20 years of friendship couldn't be erased, even by such a profound betrayal. Did you ever figure out why he did it? Clara asked. Beyond the money, I mean, Rowan shook his head. I visited him once after his arrest. He wouldn't talk to me, but his wife mentioned that he'd been passed over for promotion 3 times. He expected to be named COO last year. Resentment is a powerful motivator, Ava observed. It can distort someone's perspective until they believe they're entitled to what they're stealing. I should have seen it, Rowan said. The signs were there. His increasing criticism of my leadership style, his push for more autonomy in his division. You trusted him? Clara said gently. That's not a failure, Rowan. It's what friends are supposed to do. He looked at her, surprised by the defense. Of the 3 of them, Clara had the most reason to resent Jordan's actions, which had thrust her into a family drama she never asked for. Thank you for that, he said simply. The moment was interrupted by Ava's tablet chiming with an alert. The DARPA team is here for their 2 o'clock meeting, she announced. We should wrap up, Rowan agreed, gathering his papers. Clara, will you join us for dinner tonight? There's a new restaurant near the harbor I've been wanting to try. I'd like that, she smiled. 7 o'clock? Perfect. I'll have a car pick you up. As Clara left for her afternoon class, Ava remained behind, studying Rowan with that analytical gaze that seemed to see right through him. "What?" he asked. "You're different," she observed. 3 months ago, you would have been obsessing over Jordan's sentencing, reviewing every interaction, looking for what you missed. Maybe I've learned that looking backward isn't as productive as moving forward. He paused. Or maybe I've just found better things to focus on. Their eyes met, and that now familiar current passed between them, unspoken but increasingly difficult to ignore. "We should get to the meeting," Ava said, breaking the moment. "The DARPA representatives don't like to be kept waiting." "Always the professional," Rowan noted with a small smile. "One of us has to be," she replied, but there was warmth in her voice that hadn't been there when they first met. "If you're feeling the connection growing between these characters, drop a like right now. And seriously, if you've watched this far without subscribing, what are you waiting for? The algorithm literally won't show you the next part of stories like this unless you're subscribed. Don't miss out because of one simple click you haven't made yet." The DARPA meeting ran longer than expected, with detailed discussions about the new security protocols Ava had implemented and the genetic authentication system Clara was developing. By the time it concluded, the autumn sun was already setting over Boston. "That went well," Ava commented as they walked back to Rowan's office. They seemed particularly impressed with the countermeasures against genetic spoofing. "Clara's work is revolutionary," Rowan agreed. "She's found a way to distinguish between live genetic samples and synthetic replications. It makes what Jordan was attempting impossible now." "You sound proud," Ava observed. "I am." He smiled slightly. "Is it strange to take pride in accomplishments you had nothing to do with?" "Not when it's your daughter." She glanced at him. "You're allowed to be proud of her, Rowan, even if you weren't there for the first part of her life." They reached his office where Rowan paused to check his messages before dinner. "Speaking of Clara, I've been meaning to ask you something." "What's that?" "How do you think she's really doing with all of this? She talks to you differently than she talks to me." Ava considered the question carefully. "I think she's processing everything remarkably well. Finding out your father isn't dead, that your mother kept this secret your entire life, that you were the target of corporate espionage, any one of those would be overwhelming. But she's also cautious. She's building a relationship with you, but she's protecting herself too, which is completely reasonable." Rowan nodded, accepting the assessment. "And what about you? What about me? How are you doing with all of this? This isn't what you signed up for when you took the security consultant job." Ava's expression softened slightly. "I signed up to solve a complex problem. I stayed because—" She paused, uncharacteristically hesitant. "Because the problems here are interesting, and the people are worth protecting." Before Rowan could respond, his assistant knocked on the door. "Mr. Blake, your car's ready whenever you are." "Thank you, Riley." He turned back to Ava. "Shall we?" The restaurant was situated on the harbor, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering views of the water and the Boston skyline beyond. Clara was already there when they arrived, seated at a corner table with the best view. "I hope you don't mind," she said as they joined her. "I got here early and they offered me this table." "It's perfect," Rowan assured her, taking the seat across from her while Ava sat between them. As they ordered drinks and appetizers, the conversation flowed more easily than it had in their early meetings. Clara shared stories from her day's lectures, Ava discussed the DARPA meeting, and Rowan found himself relaxing in a way that had once been foreign to him. "I've been thinking about my mother," Clara said, during a lull in the conversation, "about what she would make of all this." Rowan set down his glass. "What do you think she would say?" "I think," Clara smiled sadly, "I think she would be upset that her secret was discovered, but relieved that she didn't have to carry it alone anymore. And I think she would be surprised by how things have turned out." "Nora was always practical," Rowan remembered. "She believed in making the best of whatever situation you found yourself in." "That's true," Clara agreed. "It's how she raised me. Adapt and advance," she always said. "That sounds like her." Rowan's expression grew nostalgic. She had this way of cutting through problems, finding the simplest solution when everyone else was overcomplicating things. "You still loved her," Clara observed. It wasn't a question. A part of me always will, Rowan admitted. She was my first real love. And she gave me you even if I didn't know it for 25 years. The honesty in his voice touched something in Clara. She reached across the table and, for the first time, voluntarily took his hand. I found something yesterday that I thought you might want to see. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small, worn journal. This was my mother's. She kept journals her whole life. This one is from the year before I was born. Rowan stared at the journal, visibly moved. You're sharing this with me? Just this one, Clara clarified. The others are still private. But this one has entries about you, about her pregnancy, about her decision to leave. I thought it might help you understand. Thank you, he said, his voice rough with emotion. This means more than I can say. Ava, sensing the significance of the moment, excused herself to take a call, giving father and daughter a moment of privacy. I've been angry with her, Clara confessed once Ava had stepped away. Since finding out the truth. Angry that she lied to me my whole life. But reading her journals, seeing how scared she was, how much she struggled with the decision. Nora did what she thought was best for you, Rowan said gently. And looking at the remarkable woman you've become, I can't say she was wrong. Clara blinked back unexpected tears. I wish you could have known each other again, as adults. I think you would have liked who she became. I have no doubt of that. He carefully placed the journal in his jacket pocket. I'll treasure this, Clara, and return it whenever you ask. When Ava rejoined them, the mood had shifted. Something important had passed between father and daughter, a threshold crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. The rest of the evening passed pleasantly, with conversation turning to lighter topics. Clara's passion for hiking, Ava's surprising interest in classical music, Rowan's secret talent for cooking that he'd developed as a stress relief from his corporate responsibilities. As they were finishing dessert, Rowan's phone buzzed with an urgent message. He frowned as he read it. What is it? Ava asked, immediately alert. Security alert at the Cambridge office, he replied. Someone attempted to access the main server room using an outdated security credential. Jordan's credentials? Clara guessed. Rowan nodded. The system blocked the attempt, but it's concerning. Jordan is in federal custody. His credentials shouldn't be in circulation. I need to check this, Ava said, already reaching for her tablet. It could be nothing, a glitch in the system. Or it could be someone connected to Jordan's buyer trying to salvage the deal. The car can take you both back to the office, Clara offered. I should head home anyway, early class tomorrow. Are you sure? Rowan asked, reluctant to cut the evening short. Positive. Go do what you need to do, she smiled. The journal will keep until you have time to read it. After saying goodbye to Clara, Rowan and Ava headed directly to the Cambridge office. The security team had already initiated lockdown protocols, and the head of physical security met them at the entrance. No breach occurred, he reported. The attempt was flagged and blocked immediately, as per Ms. Sinclair's protocols. Show me the surveillance, Ava requested. In the security office, they reviewed the footage. A figure in a maintenance uniform had attempted to use a key card at the server room door, then quickly departed when access was denied. Freeze that, Ava instructed, pointing to a frame where the person's face was partially visible. Enhance and run facial recognition. The system processed the image, comparing it against employee databases and watch lists. After several seconds, a match appeared. Skylar Quinn, Rowan read. The buyer Jordan was working with. Former NSA cybersecurity specialist, Ava added, reading the file. Went private sector 3 years ago. Now works as a security consultant for various international clients. How did she get into the building? Maintenance contractor credentials, Ava noted, checking the logs. She must have cloned a legitimate badge, but she couldn't get past the biometric requirements for the server room. She's trying to complete Jordan's job, Rowan realized. The buyer still wants access to our systems, and is willing to risk coming in person to get it. Ava was already typing commands, strengthening security protocols. We need to alert DARPA. If Skylar Quinn is here, it means the threat isn't over. They spent the next several hours coordinating with federal authorities, reviewing security footage, and enhancing protection around all Blake Enterprises facilities. By the time they finished, it was well past midnight. "You should get some rest," Rowan told Ava as they finally prepared to leave. "We can continue this in the morning." "I'm fine," she insisted, though the fatigue was visible in her posture. "I want to finish the security audit on the contractor access points." "Ava." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've been working for 18 hours straight. Even the algorithm needs sleep." She looked up at him, a hint of amusement in her tired eyes. "Did you just make a joke about my nickname?" "Possibly. Don't tell anyone. It would ruin my reputation as a humorless tyrant." That earned a small laugh. "Your secret is safe with me." As they walked to the parking garage, Rowan found himself reluctant to end the evening, despite the late hour and the security concerns. "Would you like to come back to my place? I have an excellent scotch that might help us both unwind." The invitation hung in the air between them, carrying more weight than the casual words suggested. Ava studied him for a moment, her analytical mind clearly assessing all the implications. "I think that would be nice," she finally said. Rowan's penthouse offered panoramic views of Boston, though neither of them paid much attention to the scenery as they settled in the living room with glasses of aged scotch. "To successful security protocols," Rowan toasted, "and to breaking rules when necessary," Ava added with a small smile. They drank in comfortable silence for a moment, the events of the day settling around them. "Clara gave me Nora's journal tonight," Rowan said finally. "From the year before Clara was born." "That's significant," Ava observed. "She's letting you into her mother's thoughts, her history." "It feels like a turning point." He swirled the amber liquid in his glass. "For most of my life, I've defined myself by what I've built. The company, the wealth, the reputation. I never realized how empty it all was until I found Clara. And now I understand what legacy really means." He met her eyes. "It's not about the systems we build. It's about the relationships we form, the lives we touch." That's quite a philosophical shift for someone who once had never trust outsiders as a core principle. "I had a good teacher." His gaze held hers. "Someone who showed me that sometimes breaking the rules is the only way to protect what matters." The air between them seemed to charge with unspoken possibility. For months, they had maintained a careful professional distance despite the growing connection neither could deny. "Rowan," Ava began, setting down her glass, "we should probably discuss—" His phone rang, shattering the moment. The caller ID showed DARPA. "Blake," he answered, immediately alert. As he listened, his expression grew increasingly concerned. "When? Are you certain?" "Yes, Blake," he answered, immediately alert. As he listened, his expression grew increasingly concerned. "When? Are you certain?" "Yes, we'll implement additional security immediately. Keep me updated." He ended the call, his relaxed demeanor replaced by the focused CEO once more. "What is it?" Ava asked, already reaching for her tablet. Skylar Quinn wasn't working alone. DARPA intercepted communications between her and 3 other operatives. They're planning a coordinated attack on our systems. "When?" "That's the problem. They don't know." Rowan ran a hand through his hair. "But they believe it's imminent." Ava was already on her feet. "We need to get back to the office. I'll need to implement emergency protocols across all facilities." "I'll call Clara," Rowan said, reaching for his phone. "If they're targeting our systems, they might go after the genetic research too." The moment of connection between them was set aside as they shifted back into crisis mode, both of them falling into the familiar rhythm of problem-solving that had defined their relationship from the beginning. Within 30 minutes, they were back at Blake Enterprises, the security team assembled in the command center Ava had established after the initial breach. Clara joined them shortly after, having been escorted by Rowan's security detail. "What's happening?" she asked, looking between them. "Potential coordinated attack on our systems," Ava explained, not looking up from her screens. "Possibly targeting your research as well." "My research is secure," Clara assured them. "After what happened with Jordan, I implemented additional safeguards. The core data is air-gapped and requires my direct biometric authentication. Good, Rowan nodded. But until we know exactly what they're targeting, I want you to stay here where we can ensure your safety. For once, Clara didn't argue. The gravity of the situation was clear in the focused activity around them. Ava had transformed the command center into a digital fortress, monitoring all access points to Blake Enterprises systems worldwide. Screens displayed real-time security data, network traffic, and surveillance feeds from key facilities. I've implemented lockdown protocols at all locations, she reported. No physical access without direct authorization from one of us, and all digital systems are running enhanced intrusion detection. What about the London office? Rowan asked. They're still in setup phase. Already handled. I've delayed the network integration until this threat is neutralized. She turned to face him. Now we wait and watch. The waiting was the hardest part. Hours passed with no sign of the anticipated attack. The security team remained vigilant, checking and rechecking systems while Rowan, Ava, and Clara reviewed every possible vulnerability. This doesn't make sense, Ava said as dawn approached. If they were planning an imminent attack, they should have moved by now. Unless the attack isn't what we think it is, Clara suggested, looking up from the research data she'd been reviewing. What if they're not after our systems at all? What do you mean? Rowan asked. Jordan's original plan was to use my genetic connection to you to create a backdoor, Clara explained. But that plan failed when I gave him the modified sample. And we've since implemented safeguards against genetic spoofing, Ava added, following her logic. Exactly. So what if they've changed tactics entirely? Clara pulled up a file on her tablet. Look at this. The research Jordan was most interested in wasn't just about genetic authentication. It was about my delivery mechanism for CRISPR modifications. The technology that allows for precise genetic alterations, Rowan recalled. Yes. And if someone combined that with access to Blake Enterprises' biometric security, Clara's expression grew troubled. They could potentially create a targeted genetic virus that would affect only people with specific DNA markers. Like members of the Blake family, Ava realized, the implications dawning on her. A biological weapon designed to target specific individuals based on their genetic code. That's why they needed my research, Clara continued, and why they needed samples of Blake DNA. They're not trying to hack our systems, they're trying to weaponize genetics. The theory was chilling, but made perfect sense. It explained why the anticipated cyber attack hadn't materialized, because it wasn't a cyber attack they were planning. If that's true, Rowan said slowly, then the target isn't our company, it's us. Specifically, Clara and me. We need to alert DARPA immediately, Ava said, already reaching for the secure line. This goes beyond corporate espionage. This is bioterrorism. As Ava briefed the DARPA team, Rowan turned to Clara. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I never meant to put you in danger. This isn't your fault, she replied firmly. My research was always going to attract attention. The fact that I'm your daughter just made it a more attractive target. Still, if I had found you sooner, protected you better. Rowan, she cut him off. I've spent my entire adult life in high-security research facilities. I understand risk. And I choose to continue my work despite those risks because it matters. He studied her face, so much like Nora's, yet with his determination in her eyes. You really are extraordinary, you know that? I had good genes, she smiled slightly. From both sides. Ava rejoined them, her expression grim. DARPA is mobilizing a counter-terrorism team. They're taking the threat seriously. What do they want us to do? Rowan asked. Secure location, limited movement, no public appearances until they can identify and neutralize the threat. She hesitated. They're particularly concerned about Clara. As both a Blake and the creator of the delivery technology, she's the primary target. I'm not hiding, Clara said immediately. My work is too important. No one's asking you to abandon your work, Rowan assured her, but we can take precautions. Move your lab equipment to a secure location. Limit physical access to you. The Blake estate, Ava suggested. It's already fortified, isolated, and we can set up a temporary lab in the East Wing. Clara looked between them, clearly weighing her options. For how long? Until DARPA neutralizes the threat, Ava replied. Days, possibly weeks. What about my students, my classes? Remote teaching, Rowan suggested. We can set up secure video conferencing. Clara sighed. Fine, but I want it on record that I'm doing this under protest. Duly noted, Rowan smiled slightly. Your objection to reasonable safety measures has been registered. The tension is building. If you're invested in what happens next, make sure you've hit that like button. And if you're one of those people still watching without subscribing, seriously, what are you waiting for? Don't you want to know if Rowan, Ava, and Clara survive this threat? Subscribe now before you regret missing the conclusion. The Blake estate sat on 20 acres of wooded land outside Boston, a sprawling mansion that Rowan rarely visited despite owning it for over a decade. Within hours, it had been transformed into a secure compound, with DARPA agents establishing a perimeter and Ava's security team implementing additional protective measures. The East Wing, as promised, was converted into a temporary laboratory for Clara, with her essential equipment transported under heavy security. By nightfall, the three of them were settled in, surrounded by both physical and digital protection. The estate has its own power supply, water filtration, and secure communications, Rowan explained as he showed Clara to her suite of rooms. You should be comfortable here, despite the circumstances. It's beautiful, Clara admitted, looking around at the elegant furnishings and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. Did you grow up here? No, Rowan shook his head. I purchased this place after Blake Enterprises went public. I thought I needed a proper estate to match my new status. He smiled ruefully. I've spent maybe 20 nights here in total. It never felt like home. Where did you grow up? A small apartment in South Boston. My father worked for a tech company that eventually failed. It's partly why I've been so driven to succeed. I watched what failure did to him. Clara nodded, understanding something new about the man who was her father. My mother and I moved a lot when I was young. Small apartments, university housing. It wasn't until she got tenure at Boston University that we had a real home. I wish I could have helped, Rowan said quietly. Made things easier for both of you. She was proud, Clara replied. She wouldn't have accepted help even if you'd offered. She paused, considering. But I think she would have liked to know you were looking for us. That you cared enough to try. Before Rowan could respond, Ava appeared in the doorway. Security sweep is complete. The estate is secure. DARPA has agents positioned at all access points, and our own team is monitoring the surveillance systems. Thank you, Rowan nodded. Any updates on Skylar Quinn? Nothing yet. She's gone to ground. Ava looked between them. You should both get some rest. It's been a long day. What about you? Clara asked. I'll take first watch with the security team. We're rotating shifts. Wake me for the second shift, Rowan instructed. I don't expect to sleep much anyway. After Ava left, Clara turned back to Rowan. She cares about you, you know. Ava, she cares about security. It's her job. Clara smiled knowingly. If you believe that, you're not as perceptive as I thought. With that cryptic comment, she bid him goodnight, leaving Rowan to ponder her words as he made his way to his own suite. Despite his prediction, exhaustion claimed him quickly. He woke hours later to find the estate quiet, moonlight streaming through the windows. Checking his watch, he saw it was just past 2 a.m., time to relieve Ava as promised. He found her in the security command center they'd established in the library, surrounded by monitors displaying various camera feeds and security data. You were supposed to wake me, he said, entering the room. She looked up, unsurprised by his appearance. You needed the rest more than I did. That wasn't your call to make. But there was no real anger in his voice as he took the seat beside her. Any developments? DARPA intercepted communications between two of Quinn's associates. They're planning something for tomorrow night. What kind of something? They don't have details yet. Just a time, 9 p.m., and a reference to the package. Rowan frowned. Could be anything. A weapon, data, a person. My money's on a weapon, Ava said. Specifically the genetic targeting agent Clara theorized about. So tomorrow night they make their move. Rowan studied the security feeds. We'll be ready. They sat in companionable silence for a while, monitoring the quiet estate. Finally, Rowan spoke again. Clara said something interesting before she went to bed. Oh? She suggested that you care about me, beyond professional obligation. Ava's expression remained carefully neutral. Clara is very perceptive. Is she right? For a long moment, Ava said nothing, her eyes fixed on the monitors. Then, very quietly, yes. The simple admission hung in the air between them, changing everything and nothing at once. I care about you too, Rowan said finally. More than I expected to. More than is probably wise, given the circumstances. Circumstances have a way of changing, Ava observed, finally meeting his gaze. 3 months ago, you were a rigid CEO with trust issues, and I was a security consultant with a reputation for emotional detachment. And now? Now we're sitting in a fortified estate, protecting your newly discovered daughter from bioterrorists, and having a conversation about feelings. A small smile touched her lips. I'd say circumstances have definitely changed. Rowan laughed softly. When you put it that way, it sounds absurd. Life often is. She turned back to the monitors. But we should probably focus on the bioterrorist threat before exploring this further. Agreed. But he reached over and briefly covered her hand with his. A promise of a conversation to be continued. The next day passed in tense preparation. DARPA provided additional intelligence suggesting that Quinn's team planned to deploy their weapon at a specific location, though the exact target remained unclear. Clara worked in her temporary lab, developing potential countermeasures based on her knowledge of the delivery mechanism they might be using. By evening, the estate had been transformed into a war room. DARPA agents coordinated with local law enforcement, while Ava's team monitored all digital communications in the area for any sign of Quinn or her associates. We've identified 2 of her team members entering Boston 3 hours ago, a DARPA agent reported. Surveillance lost them near the financial district. That's close to Blake Enterprises headquarters, Rowan noted. But the building is locked down, Ava reminded him. No one can access it without triggering multiple alerts. Unless that's exactly what they want, Clara suggested, joining them in the command center. A diversion to draw attention while they target something else. Like what? Rowan asked. Clara hesitated. The MIT laboratory where I normally work. My research samples are still there, despite the enhanced security we implemented. Could they use those samples to create their weapon? Ava asked sharply. Potentially, yes. Especially if they have the delivery mechanism specifications Jordan stole. Rowan was already reaching for his phone. I'll alert DARPA to secure the lab immediately. It might be too late, Clara warned. If they've been planning this, they could already have what they need. Then what's happening tonight at 9 p.m.? Ava wondered. Deployment, Clara said grimly. They're going to release the weapon. The realization sent a chill through the room. If Quinn's team had indeed created a genetic targeting agent designed to affect only those with Blake DNA, they could deploy it anywhere Rowan or Clara might be expected to go. The charity gala, Rowan suddenly remembered. Blake Enterprises is sponsoring the Children's Hospital benefit tonight. It was on my calendar for months before all this happened. Would they expect you to attend despite the security concerns? Ava asked. It's the biggest charitable event of the year. I've never missed it. He checked his watch. It starts in 1 hour at the Ritz-Carlton. That has to be the target, Clara agreed. Hundreds of people, high profile, and they would expect at least one of us to be there. We need to evacuate the hotel immediately, Ava said, already contacting the DARPA team. And set up a perimeter to prevent them from deploying the weapon. As the security teams mobilized, Rowan turned to Clara. You should stay here. There's no reason for both of us to be at risk. Actually, there is, she countered. If they've developed the weapon I think they have, I'm the only one who might be able to neutralize it on site. My delivery mechanism can be reversed to act as a countermeasure. It's too dangerous, Rowan insisted. This is my research they're weaponizing, Clara said firmly. My responsibility. I'm going. Ava intervened before the argument could escalate. We can protect her, Rowan, and she's right. We may need her expertise on site. Reluctantly, Rowan agreed. Within minutes, they were in a convoy of armored vehicles heading toward Boston, surrounded by DARPA agents and Ava's security team. The hotel is being quietly evacuated, Ava reported, checking updates on her tablet. DARPA has established a perimeter and is scanning for any sign of Quinn or her team. What about the weapon? Rowan asked. How would they deploy it? If it's based on my delivery mechanism, Clara explained, it could be aerosolized, released into the ventilation system or simply dispersed in a crowded room. And the effects? Clara's expression was grim. Depending on how they've modified it, anything from temporary illness to... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. As they approached the hotel, the scale of the operation became clear. Police had blocked off surrounding streets, while DARPA agents in tactical gear secured all entrances. Hotel guests and gala attendees were being directed to a safe distance, many looking confused and concerned. They've found something, Ava reported as new information came through her earpiece. A device in the main ballroom's ventilation system. Bomb Squad is assessing now. I need to see it, Clara said immediately. If it's what I think it is, standard bomb disposal protocols could actually trigger release. Rowan exchanged glances with Ava. The risk was enormous, but Clara's expertise might be their only chance to safely neutralize the threat. Get her whatever she needs, he decided, but full protective gear, and I'm going with her. We both are, Ava added firmly. I'm not letting either of you out of my sight. Within minutes, they were being escorted into the hotel, dressed in hazmat suits as a precaution. The ballroom, normally elegant and filled with Boston's elite, was eerily empty, with only DARPA agents and bomb technicians present. The device is in the main air handler, the lead technician explained, pointing to an access panel in the ceiling. It's unlike anything we've seen before. Not explosive, but definitely designed to disperse something. Clara approached, studying the images on the technician's tablet. That's it, she confirmed grimly. A modified version of my delivery mechanism. See the dispersal pattern? It's designed to aerosolize the agent and spread it throughout the room. Can you disable it? Rowan asked. I think so. She turned to the technician. I need micro tools, a containment unit, and access to that panel. As the team gathered the requested equipment, Ava received another update through her earpiece. They've spotted Skylar Quinn, she reported. She's in a vehicle 2 blocks away, apparently monitoring the situation. DARPA is moving to intercept, the agent beside them confirmed, but our priority is the device. A platform was quickly assembled, allowing Clara to access the ceiling panel. With Rowan and Ava watching anxiously from below, she carefully removed the cover and examined the device inside. It's definitely based on my research, she called down, but they've modified it significantly. She worked methodically, using the micro tools to examine the device without triggering it. There's a timer, set for 9 p.m. exactly. We have 17 minutes. Can you disarm it? Rowan asked, tension evident even through the hazmat suit. I think so. The basic architecture is still my design. She continued working, her movements precise despite the pressure. But there's something else here. A secondary trigger. Possibly remote activated. Quinn, Ava realized. She's waiting nearby to ensure it deploys even if the timer is disabled. We need to capture her before Clara removes the device, Rowan decided. Otherwise, she could trigger it remotely while it's being handled. Ava relayed the information to the DARPA team pursuing Quinn. They're closing in now, she reported, but she's realized she's been spotted. She's on the move. The next few minutes were agonizing. Clara continued her careful examination of the device while they received updates on the pursuit of Quinn through the streets of Boston. They've got her, Ava finally announced. Quinn is in custody and her remote device has been secured. A collective sigh of relief passed through the room. Clara, hearing the news, proceeded with increased confidence. I'm going to remove the dispersal mechanism first, she explained. Then we can safely extract the agent itself for analysis and proper disposal. Working with the steady hands of a surgeon, she disconnected the various components, placing each in a separate containment unit. Finally, she extracted a small vial of clear liquid, the genetic targeting agent itself. Got it, she announced, carefully securing the vial. The device is neutralized. As she descended from the platform, still holding the containment unit with the vial, Rowan felt a wave of pride unlike anything he'd experienced in his business career. His daughter, This brilliant, brave woman he'd only known for 3 months had just saved countless lives, including his own. "You were amazing," he told her, as they removed their hazmat hoods in the decontamination area. "Absolutely incredible," Clara smiled, the tension of the past hours finally showing in her tired eyes. "Just doing my job, the same as you would." "Not many people could have disarmed that device," Ava pointed out, joining them. "Your knowledge of the delivery mechanism was crucial." "What happens now?" Clara asked. "DARPA will take Quinn and her associates into custody," Ava explained. "The genetic agent will be analyzed at a secure facility, and all of Quinn's connections will be investigated." "And us?" Rowan asked. "We go home," Ava said simply. "The immediate threat has been neutralized. There will be debriefings, of course, but those can wait until tomorrow." As they prepared to leave, a DARPA agent approached with news. "Ms. Quinn is talking," he reported. "Apparently this was bigger than we thought. She was working for a consortium of competitors who wanted both Blake Enterprises' defense contracts and Dr. Wynn's genetic technology." Jordan was just the beginning, Rowan realized. They had a backup plan all along. "We'll get all the details from Quinn," the agent assured them. "For now, you should all get some rest. You've earned it." The ride back to the Blake estate was quiet, each of them processing the events of the night in their own way. Clara eventually dozed off, the adrenaline crash finally catching up with her. Rowan watched her sleep, still marveling at the fact that this extraordinary woman was his daughter. "She saved a lot of lives tonight," Ava said softly, following his gaze. "Including yours." "And her own," Rowan added. "The agent was designed to target both of us. She's remarkable. Like her father." He turned to look at Ava, finding unexpected warmth in her eyes. "And like her mother. Nora would have been so proud of her." "I think she would be proud of you too," Ava said. "The man you've become these past few months is very different from the one who hired me to fix a security breach." "I had good reasons to change," Rowan replied, his gaze moving between Clara and Ava. "Very good reasons." Back at the estate, they settled Clara in her room before retreating to the library, where a fire had been lit against the autumn chill. The security teams maintained their vigilance outside, but inside, a sense of cautious relief prevailed. Rowan poured 2 glasses of scotch, handing one to Ava as they sat before the fire. "To breaking rules," he toasted, echoing her words from the night before. "To protecting what matters," she responded, clinking her glass against his. They drank in comfortable silence, the events of the past 3 months, from their first contentious meeting to tonight's life-or-death confrontation, creating a bond between them that transcended professional collaboration. "We never finished our conversation from last night," Rowan said finally, "about circumstances changing." "No, we didn't," Ava agreed. "Though nearly dying together tends to clarify certain things." "Such as?" She set down her glass, turning to face him directly. "Such as the fact that I've spent my career maintaining emotional distance from everyone and everything, calculating risks rather than taking them. Until you. What changed? You did, and then I did." She smiled slightly. "The man who wrote 'Never trust outsiders' as a fundamental rule learned to trust not just me, but his long-lost daughter. If you could break your most sacred rule, perhaps I could break mine." "Which was? Never get personally involved?" She held his gaze. "I've broken that rule thoroughly where you're concerned." Rowan reached out, taking her hand. "I'm glad you did." The moment was interrupted by a soft knock at the door. Clara stood there, looking apologetic. "Sorry to intrude. I couldn't sleep after all." "You're not intruding," Rowan assured her, though he reluctantly released Ava's hand. "Join us." Clara settled in an armchair across from them, accepting the glass of water Ava offered. "I've been thinking about what happens next," she said, "after all this is over." "What do you mean?" Rowan asked. "My research. The genetic delivery mechanism that Quinn's team weaponized." She looked troubled. "I created it to help people, to deliver precise genetic therapies for hereditary diseases. But now I've seen how easily it can be perverted." "That's true of most significant scientific advances," Ava pointed out. "Nuclear energy can power cities or destroy them. The internet can connect people or manipulate them. The question isn't whether to continue your research, Rowan added. It's how to protect it while ensuring it fulfills its original purpose. Clara nodded slowly. I've been offered a position at the Blake MIT Initiative, leading my own research team, with enhanced security and ethical oversight. Are you considering it? Rowan asked carefully, not wanting to pressure her. I am, she smiled slightly. It would mean working more closely with both of you, becoming more involved with Blake Enterprises. Only if that's what you want, Rowan assured her. There's no obligation. I know, Clara's expression softened. But I think I'd like to get to know my father better. And his... She glanced between them with knowing eyes. His chief security officer. Ava actually blushed slightly, a sight Rowan had never expected to see. We're still figuring that part out, she admitted. Well, figure it out soon, Clara advised with a smile. Life's too short for unnecessary calculations. With that surprisingly wise counsel, she bid them good night once more, leaving Rowan and Ava alone again before the fire. She's right, you know, Rowan said after a moment, about unnecessary calculations. She is, Ava agreed. Though some calculations are essential. Such as? Such as the fact that I'm still technically your employee, that we've known each other only 3 months, that we've spent most of that time in crisis mode. All valid points, Rowan acknowledged. And yet, she echoed, meeting his eyes. Here we are. The fire crackled in the silence between them, casting warm light across their faces. Outside, the security teams maintained their vigilance. Upstairs, Clara slept peacefully, safe from those who had sought to harm her. And in the library, 2 people who had begun as reluctant collaborators found themselves at the threshold of something neither had expected. I don't take risks, Ava said softly, echoing her personal philosophy. I calculate them. And what does your calculation tell you now? Rowan asked. She smiled, the warmth reaching her eyes in a way he'd never seen before. That some risks are worth taking. As she leaned toward him, Rowan Blake, the man who had once lived his life by 15 rigid rules, discovered that sometimes the most important rule was knowing when to break all the others. If this story taught you something, that sometimes breaking rules is the only way to protect what matters, share this video right now. And if you watched all the way to the end without subscribing, explain in the comments why you'd choose to stay out of the family we're building here. 3 months later, the Blake MIT Genetic Security Initiative celebrated its official launch. The state-of-the-art research facility, housed in a newly constructed building on the MIT campus, represented the culmination of Clara's scientific vision and Rowan's business acumen. As Clara led donors and dignitaries on a tour of the laboratories, Rowan stood back, watching with undisguised pride. Beside him, Ava monitored the security systems on her tablet. Old habits died hard, even in times of celebration. Everything secure? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Under Ava's supervision, the facility had been designed with security measures that made Fort Knox look vulnerable. Completely, she confirmed, slipping the tablet into her pocket. Though I'll feel better once the VIPs leave and we can lock down properly. Always the professional, he teased gently, taking her hand. Not always, she replied, squeezing his fingers. I do occasionally take time off. Their relationship had evolved gradually over the past 3 months, both of them cautious by nature but increasingly willing to take calculated risks where the other was concerned. Ava had maintained her position as chief security officer, but their personal connection had deepened into something neither had expected to find. Clara approached, having finished her tour. The Secretary of Defense is impressed, she reported. He's talking about additional funding for the Secure Applications Division. That's your doing, Rowan told her. Your presentation was compelling. Our presentation, she corrected. The Blake MIT Initiative is a family enterprise after all. Family. The word still carried a sense of wonder for Rowan. After decades of defining himself solely through his company, he now found himself part of something more meaningful. A family that included not only the daughter he'd discovered, but also the woman who had helped him find her. As the event wound down and the last guest departed, The three of them gathered in Clara's office for a private toast. To the initiative, Clara proposed, raising her glass. May it help more people than it scares. To family, Rowan added. Found later than it should have been, but cherished all the more for it. To breaking rules, Ava finished with a smile. When necessary to protect what matters. They clinked glasses, the sound ringing clear in the quiet office. Outside, Boston continued its evening rhythm. Inside, three people who had been strangers just 6 months ago celebrated the connections that had transformed their lives. Later, as Rowan and Ava walked through the campus toward their waiting car, he paused to look back at the building where Clara remained, working late as usual. I never imagined this, he admitted. Any of it. What part? Ava asked. Finding your daughter? Launching a groundbreaking research initiative? Or dating your security consultant? All of it, he laughed. Especially the last part. The old Rowan Blake would have considered that a serious violation of the Blake Code. The old Rowan Blake was missing out, she replied, leaning up to kiss him briefly. As they continued walking, Rowan reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A security breach that had led to discovering his daughter. A rigid set of rules that had been broken to protect what truly mattered. A calculated risk-taker who had taught him that some risks were worth taking. I've been thinking about Rule 15, he said as they reached the car. Legacy exists in both systems and relationships, Ava quoted. I like the new version. I'm considering one more revision, Rowan told her. Something simpler. What's that? He smiled, taking her hand once more. Rule 15. Break the rules that don't matter to protect the things that do. I think I can calculate the odds of that working out, Ava replied with a smile of her own. And they look very good indeed. The end.